Hi, my name is Pete Hahn, and thank you for watching this tutorial video. Be sure to visit www.hahn-tech.com for the full library of video tutorials. I hope this video increases your knowledge and helps you become more efficient with this topic, whether for home or work. Please support this channel by sharing these videos with your friends and colleagues. Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be covering an indicator that I built based upon user feedback. I received an email from one of our viewers requesting this indicator be built for the RadarScreen, and I went a little bit above and beyond what the viewer had requested, and I'm excited to show it to you today. What we have here is a classic Keltner Bollinger Band squeeze using a MACD as the histogram. So the dots on the center line of the MACD are displaying red and green dots to show when the Keltner band has squeezed inside of the Bollinger Band. Now we don't have to plot the Keltner channels or the Bollinger Band on the chart because the dots on the center line of the MACD are going to display that for us. Notice I've also got a radar screen, which is what the viewer actually requested. But when I dug in a little bit further, the example that he gave me, well, it needed a little bit of extra, and so what I did is I built a custom version of the MACD. This version of the MACD allows you to modify the type of moving average. The one that comes built into TradeStation, surprisingly, does not allow you to change the moving average type. It is fixed at an exponential moving average, and you can't change it because it's a built-in function. So we had to add a built-in function that allowed us to customize the type of moving average we apply to the MACD. Now what you're going to find here is we've got many different types of alerts. We have an alert for the red and green dots on the center line, which is the first green dot will give you an alert. The alert is KBB fired, so KBB being short for Keltner Bollinger Band. And we also have alerts for the histogram of the MACD crossing the center line, both directions. We also have alerts for the MACD histogram changing direction. So every time you see a color change, that is a potential alert. Now we don't turn all of the alerts on at the same time because, let me tell you, on a radar screen with all of those alerts activated, it's just a non-stop and it's a barrage. So we only enable the alert for the KBB Squeeze as a default. The others, we'll show you how to turn those on. Now in this video I'm also going to be covering the technical details. In other words, I'm going to show you the actual source code because this is provided free of charge. We're not charging for this indicator. This is another one of our free indicators that we're providing to the community. For those who are interested in the technical details of what makes an indicator on the TradeStation platform work, well, we're going to be showing you the source code. And I'll give you a heads up when that section comes along so that you can skip forward if you are not interested in the technical details. But I will be explaining the code, not line by line, but I'll take groups of code at a time to explain where the inputs are coming from, how things are calculated, and how the alerts are handled. And after we get through that section, then we'll show you how to get the indicator and download it to your platform. We'll give you a quick review of how to import it into your platform. And the next thing we'll do is show you the settings, and then we'll show the indicator in action, and then we'll wrap things up. We're going to try and keep this a short video because this is a free video and we want to produce as many of these as we can, so we want to move on to the next. And before we get started, let's go ahead and cover the disclaimer. Okay, there are no buy and sell indicators on this indicator. We don't provide buy and sell indications. Nothing in this video should be interpreted as an advertisement or a recommendation to buy or sell any financial instrument. That's not just a disclaimer. I am not a professional trader. I make my living writing computer code. I don't make my living trading stocks. So please be careful not to read too much into the material that I present. You can lose all or more than the amount of money that you have deposited in your brokerage account. So trading does involve risk. Okay, and just a heads up, guys, we're going to begin the technical review soon, and it's going to take approximately 8 minutes and 40 seconds. So go ahead, if you want to skip that part of the video, skip forward only 8 minutes and 40 seconds because right after the technical review, I'm going to show you guys how to get the study, how to download it to your computer, how to install it onto your platform, and then we'll get on into the settings and how the indicator works. Okay, so let's review the technical details now for those who are inclined. I'm going to select View from the menu at the top, and I'm going to select Development Environment, and this will open a new window. So I had the indicator already loaded in the development environment, so it remembers that when it opens. It displays that just as it was when I closed it. So let's go ahead and walk through these different sections. As I said, I wasn't going to go through line by line, but I do want to show you in groups. So I'm going to highlight all of this code right here. You can see that the very top line is the word inputs. And so you have the word inputs with a colon at the end, and then you have your various inputs. Okay? That is what gets displayed when you right-click and select Format Analysis Techniques, and you see your inputs that you get to adjust. Let's take a look at one of these so that we can see how these inputs are assembled. So to begin with is a data type. You have double, this one is an int, this one is a bool. That tells you what type of information goes in the parentheses. So here is the name of the input that is then used later on in the code. It's sort of like the variable name, okay, of the input. And then here in brackets we have a display name and a tooltip. Now the tooltips have not yet been implemented in the TradeStation platform. When you look it up in their documentation, you find that it is going to be implemented in the future. So I just leave it there, but I leave it in empty quotes, so I don't use the tooltip at this time unless I'm building a premium indicator, because I want to make sure that forward compatibility is going to be at its optimum. So what you have then is your display name. Now this is declaring in quotes here how that input is displayed to the end user. So when they're doing their inputs, they don't see BB price as it is here, which is what the code sees. Instead, the user sees Bollinger Band price. So that's really how you pick apart the inputs on the TradeStation. Once you understand the essential components of building an input, it becomes very easy to work with. Let's scroll down a little bit and look at variables. Now in the TradeStation platform, you have to declare all of your variables up front. So before your variables are used, you have to declare them. And then you assign their values later on in the code. If you're used to coding with Thinkorswim, you use a def, which is short for define, and then you give a variable name and then an equal sign, and then you immediately assign a value to that variable. Well, here, instead, what we're doing is we're declaring all of our variables up front. And how do you declare a variable? Well, it's very much like the inputs. You have your data type, you have your name, and then a default value. That default value really never gets used. It just has to be there in order for the code to accept that data type. So for instance, a bool, your default value is going to be set to true or false. And then these variable names are then used later on in the code as you're doing your computations and your calculations. This is really good that this particular indicator makes use of the once keyword. And the once keyword essentially tells the code, look, just do this one time when we load the indicator on a chart. Don't do it every time there's a change on the chart. So for instance, every time the price gets updated, we're not running this statement again. It's done one time when you load the indicator on the chart, and that's it. And all it's doing is it's saying, am I a chart? So it's a bool value, and it says get app info. I don't need to go into all these details, but you can look these up. Here, let me show you. You just right click on one of these words that are in blue, select definition, and then here you see the documentation provided by TradeStation. They do a really good job. Their language is very well documented. It's very rich, very robust, and so it's very easy to be able to start to get to know this stuff. If you're already a developer, it's pretty quick and easy once you learn your way around. So here we have the Keltner section, and then we have the Bollinger Band section. I'm not going to go into line-by-line detail. Suffice it to say that those are just straight out of the box, open source, nothing fancy about any of this stuff. Again, the KBB section now, this is the Keltner Bollinger Band section. So this is where we combine the Keltner and the Bollinger Bands into a metric that tells us whether or not we are a red dot or a green dot, basically. Okay? And then we have something here that creates a counter. So what we're doing is we're using recursion here through an if statement, and we're incrementing the fired counter +1 whenever we have the conditions in place for a green dot. So the first green dot gets assigned a 1, the second and third and fourth consecutive green dots get incremented by 1, and then if we ever get to a point where we have a red dot, this gets assigned a 0, and it's always a 0 for every red dot. We don't count red dots, we only count green dots. Let me scroll down here and we see that we have a MACD section. This is where we do the little magic of making a MACD that we can modify the different types of moving averages. And up here you see reference to the custom function I had to create because the standard MACD doesn't allow for the average type. The standard MACD function is only got 3 inputs, and I've got one that has a 4th input, which is the average type. Again, if you wanted to look at this, you can just right click on this and you can select open the function, and then the function opens. This is the custom function. And if you go ahead and look at this, you'll see that we simply take the user input and we change the average type with a default of a simple moving average. So go ahead and close this. We're just about done wrapping up our technical review of the computer code here. And let's see, then we've got, this is our MACD histogram, and notice I multiply it by 3. Why do I do that? Well, I do that because the lines of the MACD can be at such extremes away from the 0 line that it makes the histogram of the MACD much more difficult to really see. And so I multiply it by 3, it just simply makes it bigger, it doesn't change the patterns. In other words, the trend is still the same direction, it's just easier to see. And then we assign the color. Again, I didn't want to go line by line through here, so we've got a section with plots. And if you wanted to look up plots and understand how they work, then you can just simply right click on that keyword and it will take you to the documentation and you can read up on that and understand how they work. I'm not going to go into great detail here explaining this, but I do want to show you, remember that assignment that we make at the very beginning, only one time when we load the chart and we have a variable that says is chart. So am I in a chart? If true, then we're going to execute these statements. If false, then we'll execute these statements. All it does is it changes the way the plots are handled, so that way I can adjust the background color and the foreground color to make it fit a radar screen versus a chart. And then right down here at the very bottom are the alerts, and the alerts are very, very simple. That's it right there. That's it. You have an alert. What you have to do is enclose that alert statement within your condition. So first we check to see if there's an alert condition present. Then we check to see if the user has opted to turn this type of alert on. And then if that alert is turned on, having met the condition, then we go ahead and present the alert, and that's the text of the alert that's displayed. Very, very, very simple. And all we do here is we check up here to see if alerts are enabled, and that's done in the user settings. And guys, that is the end of the technical review of the easy language code that is used to build this indicator. Now we'll get on and explain to you how to install the indicator on your chart, get into the settings, and then show you how it works. Okay, with the technical review complete, we're going to show you where you can get this indicator for yourself, how you can download it to your platform and install it on your platform and add it to your charts and your radar screen. And later on, towards the end of the video, we're going to have some bonus material, so be sure and stick around for that. So we're making a slight change to the way that we distribute our free indicators. Previously, for all of our thinkorswim free indicators, we have published those by either presenting the code on a web page that you can copy and paste, or we would provide the actual study file that you would import, and we would give you a link and you would have to go and download that from a Google Drive folder. But instead now we're moving everything to Github. And if you're a developer, you immediately know what Github is all about. If you don't, then don't worry about it, because even if you're not a developer, it's very easy to get the code. So here it is right here, Github, GITHUB.com. That's simple. And what you're going to do is type in github.com/HT-TradeStation, all one word, /, and this particular indicator is KBB -sqz-macd. Just go ahead and type that into your web browser. That'll take you to the repository where this indicator is located. And this is what a repository looks like on GitHub. Now, don't panic, just relax. It's very easy. You can read all about the indicator here. We have a README file that describes how you can go ahead and use the indicator. It describes what's included with the indicator. You've got alerts, you have RadarScreen, you have chart analysis, so you have a clear description right here. Later on, we're going to be publishing a link to the video in the README file, so you'll be able to access the demo video from the README file as well. And we have a Getting Started section. Notice installation method 1 has a note. It's for advanced users. Highly recommended that you follow install method number 2. Okay, so for the technically inclined who watched that little 8-minute 40-second section on the technical review of the indicator, then I'm assuming that you already understand all of the things that are required to get this code installed on your platform. For those who are not technically inclined, who want to do the easy way, we have the easy language file already included, and that easy language file name is right here. It's all caps and it ends with a file extension of ELD for Easy Language Document. So here are the instructions. You simply download the easy language file. How do you download? That's a great question. I'm so glad that you asked. You scroll up to the top of the repo and the green button right here in the upper right, it says clone or download, and you're going to select download. And you're going to download that zip file. And when that zip file has been downloaded, you're going to click this little arrow here and you're going to say show in folder. So here is the zip file that you downloaded. Most browsers are going to default to a folder called downloads. And then all you have to do is right click on that folder, extract all, and extract, hit the extract button. And you see this checkbox, show extracted files when complete. We're going to leave that checked. So we're going to hit extract. It extracts all the files, and what does it do? It extracts a folder. We open up that folder, and what have we got here? We've got your easy language document. If you're a novice, if you're not technically inclined, ignore everything else. Don't worry about it. This is the only one you need. And even if you are technically inclined, this is the easy way, right? So we've already downloaded that and we've extracted it. We know exactly where it's located. Okay, it's in a subfolder of the folder that we extracted to. You can see that path right there. Okay, so the next step, the download's done, guys. It's on your computer now. Okay, so then you go to a chart and you right click on the chart and you select Insert Analysis Technique, and then you select Import. You see this button down here, Import. It brings up a couple of options. You want to import using Import Export Wizard. When you open that, it's going to ask you to make a selection. You want the second one, ELD. That's the file type. It's for TradeStation. There are other versions in there. You don't have to worry about it. Select Next, and then you want to click the Browse button and then navigate to the location that we downloaded and exported that easy language file. So we go to Downloads. We go ahead and go to the KBB Squeeze MACD Master. You see that? Double click that. And again, remember I told you it was in a subfolder, so we double click that, and there it is. Now remember there's a whole bunch of other files in there, but the import wizard doesn't care what they are. As long as you've got a .eld in there, that's all that the import wizard sees. So then you click open, and what you're going to do is click next, and it's probably going to prompt you for a couple of more confirmations. If you've imported studies before on TradeStation, once you get to this stage, everything else just flows. I'm not going to go through the next steps because I've already got the indicator installed in my platform and I don't want to overwrite that file. So at this point I'm going to hit cancel, and that's all you've got to do. Now I'm going to show you how to add that indicator to your chart, to your radar screen, and don't forget we got that bonus material at the end of the video. Stay tuned. Okay, now that the indicator is installed on your platform and you want to add it to a chart, you simply right click anywhere on a chart and select Insert Analysis Technique. Remember the last stage, we clicked on the import button. It's the same process up to this point, but now that indicator is already loaded on your TradeStation platform, so all you need to do is select it. It's called HT-KBB Squeeze MACD. That's the name of the indicator, and you click OK, and it will add it to your chart. Now, I've already got it added to my chart, and it just added a second one. That's all it did. So I'm going to right-click and select Format Analysis Techniques, and I'll go ahead and remove the one that I don't need. Now, before we get into the settings, let's go ahead and close this, and I'll show you how to add one to a radar screen. Now, I've already got it added to this radar screen, so I'm going to go over here to another tab of my radar screen, and I'm going to right-click in an empty spot on that radar screen and select Format All Analysis Techniques. And then I'm going to navigate to the indicator. So here it is, HT-KBB Squeeze MACD. We're going to go ahead and add it to the radar screen, and you can see now it's added on the right hand side. If you want to format this indicator and change its settings, then you can do so by clicking the Format button, and then you've got available all of the inputs as well as the style and the colors for all of the plots. We're going to cancel out of this because all we need to do now is hit OK, and it's going to add it to the radar screen. And you can see that you can resize these columns. I'm going to scrunch that down a little bit, and we've got a couple of extra columns here. We don't need the MACD value or the MACD average, so I'm going to right click and I'm going to select Show Hide Plots, and I'm going to uncheck the box for the MACD value, and I'm going to uncheck the one for the MACD average. And that leaves us with two columns remaining. One is the MACD histogram that's color coded to match what's displayed on the histogram of the chart, and the other is the KBB Squeeze, which indicates the number of green dots, or if it's a red dot, we just simply give you a value of 0 because we don't count red dots, we only count green dots. So let's go ahead and go back to the other tab of our radar screen because I'm going to review a few more details. Notice on a TradeStation radar screen, I've got Apple on here 3 different times. Same thing with Amazon, same thing with Baidu. I've got those in there 3 different times, and each time is set to a different interval. Notice I've got that set to daily, this one's set to 16-minute, and then that one's set to 15-minute. I've done the same thing with Amazon and Baidu. And also notice that I've got a link here for the symbol set to green and interval set to yellow. And notice on the chart, I've got those same links established. What that does is it allows me to switch the chart based upon what symbol and interval is displayed on a particular row of the radar screen. Right now we've got Apple set to daily chart. Now I can simply change that to Apple on a 60-minute chart by clicking once in the radar screen, and because it's linked, it automatically updates the chart to a 60-minute time frame. Likewise for the 15-minute time frame. And then we can go ahead and click on Baidu Daily, and then it changes it back to a daily time frame, and it changes it to the ticker symbol Baidu. So I wanted to explain that to you. If you wanted to do multiple time frames for any indicator whatsoever, then I'll show you how to set that up. We'll do that with Caterpillar, okay? So what we want to do then is we want to just simply right click on this row, and we want to insert blank row. Now that moved it one row down, so I'm going to click and drag cat back up again, and so I'll right click on that empty one that we just added, and we'll do it again. Right click, select insert blank row, and now we've got 2 more empty rows in which to put a ticker symbol. So I'm going to add cat into this one, I'm going to add cat into this one as well. You can see they default to daily time frame, and what we'll do then is we'll select this second one, and we don't even need to do anything other than go up here to the toolbar where it says change interval. This is by default already on your toolbar, so you go ahead and click on that, and we can select 60-minute from that, and then we go down here to the next one. We're going to change that one to 15-minute. Okay, there you go. So that's all you need to do to add your various time frames to your radar screen and link them to your chart so that you can thumb through your charts and you can see multiple time frame analysis of just about any indicator that you can add to your radar screen. Let's go ahead and review the settings. We'll right click over the chart and we'll select Format Analysis Techniques. Let's move this over a little bit here, and we can select Format. Bring that up front and center here. Let's go through the inputs. So the inputs, to begin with, these are just standard inputs for your Keltner and your Bollinger Band. This is the input for your MACD. You got a standard 12-26-9. Here is your MACD average type. You got a choice of 0, 1, 2, or 3. And I explain that right here on the next line, which is kind of a null input. So I show you which number applies to which type of moving average. Right now, it's set by default to the exponential moving average. Then you have your alerts. So we go ahead and turn those on or off by setting those true or false. These are the different alerts. You've got one if it crosses up, that's crossing zero line. One if it crosses down, that's the histogram crossing the zero line down. And then you've got your alert if uptrend ends, so that is the histogram on the positive side changing color from cyan to blue if you're using the default colors. And you've got the same thing if the downtrend ends, that's the same thing as the histogram being on the negative side changing from red to yellow. And you also have the alert if KBB fires, that is the red and green dots on the zero line. And so what that will do is that will fire if you change from red to green on the first green dot. Not every green dot, just the first one. Then you can adjust the colors of the MACD histogram as well as the red and green dots. They don't have to be red and green. Change them to whatever looks right for your eye. I've got these colors defaulted to the similar colors that are present on the TTM Squeeze as it is presented in Thinkorswim. Obviously this is not the TTM Squeeze, it's not the TTM source code, this is different. I've modified it using open source tools because I don't want to infringe upon anybody's copyright. So if you go to style, you can adjust the various styles of the plots. You can go ahead and also adjust the colors here as well. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. The settings are the same regardless of whether you're on a chart or on a radar screen. So we've explained how to install the indicator, how to add it to a chart, how to add it to the radar screen. We've shown you how to get the radar screen updated with your various time frames. So now let's go ahead and review some of the charts, and we'll show you how plots on the radar screen correspond to the plots on the chart. And one quick little detour. Remember at the beginning of the video I mentioned that this indicator was prompted by a request we received from a viewer. And what they were asking for is they wanted a radar screen adapted from an indicator that they found on the trading app store. Now if you're not familiar with TradeStation, or if you are but have never looked at the trading app store, we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at that. The name of the indicator that this person was looking at is called the Irish Squeeze. So go ahead and open the trading apps and then open the trading app store. Let's go ahead and resize this window so we've got a little bit more space to view. And we type in the search box here, and I'm just going to type in the word Irish. And this is it, the Irish Squeeze. And you can read about it here. There's a button here to see more. And he's got some graphics, and he explains the difference between the TTM Squeeze and his version of the Squeeze, which he calls the Irish Squeeze. I assume it's a he. The name is Lawrence McCarthy, so I'm pretty sure that's a he. So I just wanted to show you guys what the viewer was requesting. The viewer was requesting the Irish Squeeze be adapted to display in the radar screen. Let's go back to the chart, and let's add the Irish Squeeze to our chart. If we go to Format Analysis Techniques, you might have already spotted this during the video, that I already have this, but it's turned off. Let's status that on, and then click Close, and it will display that on our chart. So my version, the KBB Squeeze, is on top, and the Irish Squeeze is on the bottom. And you can see that they are very close in the way they change colors as the histogram changes direction. However, there are some very fine differences in the way these two behave. And I experimented with various different moving average types, and I was not able to get an exact match. So I decided, since I can't get an exact match, I better provide for you guys the chart-based indicator to go along with the radar screen. After all, what's the point of having something display in a radar screen for which you don't have a match on a chart. So really, I didn't intend to build the KBB Squeeze that shows on the chart as you see it here. I only intended to build the RadarScreen. Well, I got into a little bit more, and I get kind of obsessive about these things, and especially when I'm giving stuff away, I want to make sure that it's got all the bells and whistles and all the utility that I can put into this thing so that you guys can see the value of what I can provide for you guys. So I just wanted to show that to you. That was the genesis of this entire project. It was a viewer request. It was somebody else who published some other version of the squeeze. They called it the Irish squeeze. I'm calling mine the KBB Squeeze because, after all, that's what it's derived from, the Keltner channels and the Bollinger Band. So let's go ahead then and look at some different charts. I'm going to remove the Irish squeeze from the chart by turning that off. And then let's go ahead and pick on Amazon on the 15-minute. You see here we've got green for the KBB, and we've got a number 5 in here. Well, let's go ahead and zoom in on this chart, and I'll show you. You see you've got 5 green dots in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you've got 5 green dots in a row, and you've got a 5 displayed in the KBB column of the radar screen. So that's how the indicator displays on the radar screen, and you can see, for instance, Baidu on a 15-minute has got a number 2. That means that there are 2 green dots on the 0 line on the 15-minute chart of Baidu. So you can see those 2 green dots right here. And again, as I said, we don't count red dots. So if you see Caterpillar, for instance, on a 60-minute chart has got red and it's a 0, that doesn't mean there's 0 red dots. That means we're in a squeeze. Okay, that means you've got some number of red dots. We don't specify because we don't count red dots, we only count green dots. Why is that? Well, you have to look at the documentation from people who teach how to trade the TTM squeeze, and what they teach is the squeeze itself is the building phase, the sort of the consolidation phase. Once that changes from red to green, that becomes the launch phase, or the fire. That's when it fires, so to speak. And what they do is they seek to capture, I'll give you an example. You see you've got price consolidating here in this little area, okay? And you can see that over time the red dots begin to appear. And you can see that as soon as the green dot appears, that is when it breaks out of that trading range, and what happens? It continues trading outside of that range. So that's the basic concept of the squeeze. The red dots indicate a tight consolidation of prices. The green dots indicate a increase in the volatility. It could be up, could be down. You've got to look at the histogram to determine whether it's trending up or down. And of course, as we've been going through these charts, I hope that you've also noticed that the MACD histogram column of the radar screen is color-coded, so that when you click on, let's say, Google, a daily chart of Google, you see that the MACD histogram is red, and you see on the chart indicator, again, we've got a red histogram there. Okay, we're going to get to that bonus material here pretty quick. First, I want to show you how to activate the alerts. We'll right-click on the chart, we'll select Format Analysis Techniques, and we'll format the indicator, and we go to Alerts, and we select Enable Alert. I'm going to select this once per bar, Clear Triggered Alert on bar close, and I'm going to select a specific sound, Use Custom Settings. I'm going to select Configure. I'm going to check this box for Audible, and then I want to select a sound. Let's go ahead and select Pager, and I also want a visual alert, so I'm going to check that box and leave that as the default. We'll click OK, and then we'll go to the inputs. You see, you have to do the alerts tab first and set everything up there before any of these alerts that you set up here will take place. So I'm going to set these to false. These are the default values, and I'm going to leave alert if KBB fires set to true. I'll click OK and then close. Now we have to do the same thing with the radar screen. Yes, you can set alerts for a radar screen. Those who are Thinkorswim users are really jealous of you TradeStation users, because in the radar screen you can set alerts on a watch list, so to speak. Thinkorswim you cannot. Remember, we go ahead and select Format here in the bottom right, and that allows us to format the indicator. Remember, we go to Alerts first to enable the alert once per bar interval, clear, trigger alert on bar close, use custom settings. We'll configure that. I'm going to select these boxes here. I'm going to make a different sound because I want to distinguish one sound of the radar screen from one sound of the chart indicator. I'm going to go ahead and select OK, and we'll go to the inputs. Now let's go ahead and we'll turn on, I don't see in the radar screen anything that is a 1. See, if we had 1s on the radar screen in the KBB column, those would be fired signals for the KBB Squeeze. So since we don't have any of those, we can leave that to true. It's not going to affect anything. What I do want to turn off, though, are the change in trend, because I only want to catch if the histogram is crossing the 0 line. That's what these two are for, okay? So I'm going to click OK, and then click OK. Now you heard those two pops, and you see in the bottom right-hand corner here you've got an alert for cores. MACD histogram crossed under 0. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Where is cores on our radar screen? It's right here, and it's a daily chart. And you can see that the histogram, now we're going to have to zoom in here, and I'm going to have to give you the detail view here by clicking on it. You can see here that the MACD histogram is set to minus 0.05, and if we go back one previous bar, it is set to 0. So it was above the 0 line here for several bars, and then on this bar it crossed below and triggered that alert on the radar screen. You can see that there's a special indicator here, a little yellow mark here right next, just to the right of the value in the MACD histogram. You can see there's also one for the MACD. If we go to the MACD chart, we can see again we have an indication here. So even though you weren't able to see the alert in the bottom right hand corner, then you can see it on the radar screen, anything that has an active alert. Now let me go ahead and show you how you can view the sequence of these alerts. You go ahead and select View from the main menu and go to Message Center, and here you can see a list of the alerts as they have been triggered. So there's the MACD that we just looked at, and there's the cores that we saw beforehand. You can see the description of the alert listed here. So if you miss it, you know, you're away from your desk and you heard the sound and you know there was an alert, this is how you can view the series of alerts and get an idea of what just took place. I think if you scroll to the right here, you'll be able to see some more information like what price, date, time, and things like that. Okay? So very important that you guys know how to do that. So the next thing I'm going to show you is the bonus material, and that is, can we use this indicator to do a scan? Okay, I just so happen to have my scan window opened, and we're going to go ahead and select Insert to add a new custom scan. I'm just going to give it a quick name here. We're going to put it in a folder called Videos. Click Next. Specify a universe of symbols you can scan. If you guys have never done a scan on TradeStation, then this is just a quick review. We'll have videos later on that focus completely on running scans and building scans so that you guys get a better feel for how to work in this environment. I'm simply going to select all stocks and select Next. Now we want to select our indicator from the field here, and we'll go ahead and select Indicator, and we want to scroll down until we find, now this is a trick I want to show you here. I'm going to click once in this list of indicators. I'm going to type on H. Because we put an HT in front of all of our indicators, that's a quick and easy way to get to the list of our indicators. So we've got it right here, the HT, KBB Squeeze, MACD. We'll hit OK to add that in, and then you can see that we've got the different fields. Now from our radar screen over to the left, what might be an interesting thing to scan for? Well, how about this, KBB? And what if we want to say that the KBB is equal to a value of 1? That means that the stock that this scan picks up is going to have a single green dot. which means it's going to be firing the KBB Squeeze. So let's go ahead and click this plus right here and scroll down so that we can view all of the inputs. You can change any of the inputs that you want here. We want to make sure that we have enough additional data. We default to 120 bars. If you're using an exponential moving average or a simple moving average, 120 should be fine. If you're using the Hull or the weighted moving average, you may need to increase this. The other thing that you can set here is the interval. We're going to leave it set to daily, but I want you to see that you can change it to very many different time intervals. So let's go ahead and click Finish. Now that we've built our scan and we've highlighted it here in the left window, we're going to click Run. Okay, and that scan did take quite some time, so if you're going to be running a scan against all stocks, then I recommend that you add in some other criteria such as a limit on price and a limit on average daily volume, things like that. Otherwise the scan is going to take a very long time to run. For now, we've got lots of different results here, and you can see that we've got a list of ticker symbols as well as a value for the item that we scanned. So you can see that all of these are showing one green dot. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of these. I'm going to just pick this one here and see what this one comes up with. ENT is the ticker symbol. You can see that we get the alert in the bottom right, and you can see that it's KBB Squeeze is fired. You can see the one green dot on the center line of the histogram. So guys, that's the bonus material. Yes, you can run scans, and yes, you can see how the alerts operate. And guys, that's all I've got to show you. This is a long video, a lot longer than I expected it to be, but I wanted to make sure I covered this in detail. This indicator that we're giving away for free is full of features and really robust, and I really enjoy programming in the TradeStation environment because it really does give me so much flexibility and the ability to do so much with the same code. One code, and I can apply it so many different places. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. Really appreciate your support. Please be sure and share this video with your friends. Thank you. Take care. Thank you for watching this tutorial video. Be sure to visit www.hahn-tech.com for the full library of tutorials. I hope this video increases your knowledge and helps you become more efficient with this topic, whether for home or work. Please support this channel by sharing these videos with your friends and colleagues. Thanks, and take care.